Gopijanavalabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijanavalabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Raja Janarandana Yashodanandana Raja Janarandana Nativa Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Janavalabha Girivaradhari Janavalabha Girivaradhari Shodanandana Raja Janarandana Yashodanandana Raja Janarandana Natira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Madhava Kunjavihari Jaya Radha Madhava Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radha. Jaya Radha Samasundara Samasundara. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Nitya Go Hare Ba, Hare Ba, Hare Ba, Hare Ba. Nitya Go Hare Ba, Hare Ba, Hare Ba, Hare Ba. Acharya Sudra Sudra Divine Guest, Abhachan Bhakti Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Iskan Pamacharya Divine Guest Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jai Vishnu Paparam Sabravich Acharya Sudra Sudra Divine Guest, Shri Bhakti Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anand Puri Vaishnava Ki Jai, Namacharya Shri Vilas Thakur Ki Jai, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Sri Gaura Bhakta Ki Jai Shri Shri Hare Krishna Gopal Shyam Radha Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Vandarajman Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glory is to the simple devotees. All glory is to the simple devotees. All glory is to the simple devotees. All glory, Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. All glory, Shri Prabhupada Ki.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna and welcome to all the devotees online. Thank you very much for your attendance and association. We are continuing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, verses 17 to 77, Narad's instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam for Srila Vyasadeva. Om Jnanatimi Vandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapara Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sakana Ragunatam Tam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamascha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Vanchakalpataruvyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarva Shastra Bhusha Sarva Vedeka Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokaitri Prada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kali Dvando Didaritya Shri Krishna Parivartita O Srimad Bhagavata, O nectar churn from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, O most permanent transcendent of all the Vedas, O you are enriched with the jewels of all spiritual philosophical conclusions. O you who grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world. O life breath of the Vaishnava devotees. O Lord, you are the sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You are actually Lord Krishna who has returned amongst us. Paramananda Pataya Premavarsha Shivayate Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, offer my respectful obeisance unto you. By reading you one attains transcendental bliss. For your syllabus rain pure love of God upon the reader. You are always to be served by everyone. For you are incarnation of Lord Krishna. Madeka bandhu mad sangem man guru man mahadana man nishtarka mad bhagya man ananda namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Asadu sadhu tadai natti nichochataraka Hanaman chakada chinmam premna hritkatayo spura. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O give us saintliness to the unsaintly, O uplift the very fallen. Please do not ever leave me. Please become manifest, Mahatma throat, accompanied by pure love of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Janmadyasya yatonvayaritarata charte swabhignaswara. Tene Brahma Hidaya Dikavaye Muyanti Yatsuraya. Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yattati Sargom Risha. Dhamma Svena Sada Nirastakukam Satyam Param Dhimahi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, O Son of Vasudeva, all pervading personality of Godhead, offer my respectful obeisance unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primal cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, and destructions of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being, and by him even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representation of water seen in fire, land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes temporarily manifest by the reactions of the three modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representation of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Ryanalpaisha Sabya Kalabasmin Yuge Janaman, the Sumanda Mateo Mandabagyu Padrita. O learned one, in this iron age of Kali, men but short lives, they are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Narayana Namaskritya Narachevam Narotamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance unto the personality of God at Narayana, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Vyasadeva, the author. Savai Pumsa Paro Dharmo Yatho Bhakti Radok Chajaya Hoitukia Pratyata Yatma Suprasiddhati. The supreme occupation dharma for all men, for all humanities, that by which men can attain to loving devotional service under the transcendental Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the soul. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoge Prayojita Janayatyasya Vairagyam Dhyanam Chayat Ahoitukam. By rendering devotional service under the personality of God as Shri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. Vedanti tattva vidas tattam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabhyate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. Shushrusho sadranasya vasudeva kata ruchisyan mahatsavaya vipra punya tirtha nishevanat. O twice born sages, by serving those devotees are completely freed from all vice. Great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Shranutam swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana ryajantastoya bhadrani vidunati surit satam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and a benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtues, when properly heard and chanted. Nastapayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavachutama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. By regular attendance in the classroom of the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service under the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are continuing Srimad Bhagavatam based on teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So welcome again. Let us hear some feedback from the devotees. You're most welcome to either unmute or you can type in the chat what you took home from last week's verses 8 to 16. Nalini Kanta says, be swan-like, not crow-like. Yes. We don't want to be like the crows. They only go for the dirt, the garbage. Prabhupada says the mucus, the pus. We want to cultivate a swan-like or bee-like mentality. Even though the dirt may be there, but a Paramhamsa, someone who is relishing Srimad Bhagavatam, he focuses on the nectar. Madhachana Siddhi says, when we associate with the purport of Srila Prabhupada, who is the lover of Krishna, who has wonderful relation with Krishna and has intimate relation with Lord Chaitanya, we get a wonderful relationship because he is pleasing Krishna, most definitely. Nonetheless, says Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the perfect devotee, and bhakti is the only valuable asset. Simply hearing is the key to achieve and maintain this valuable asset. Yes. In fact, there's a principle in Vaishnava etiquette that we cover. By observing, we protect and maintain. So by hearing, we understand and value the asset. We maintain the asset by hearing, by understanding its valuable nature, and by practicing, we protect. So by observing, by practicing, we protect that asset. Nalinikanda says, Hemavati says, Srimad Bhagavatam is the topmost. Stay on the ISKCON ship. We should not only pray, but praise always. Glorify the Lord. Yes, we should praise the Lord. And we find that chanting Hare Krishna, especially in Kirtan, it's a prayer and it's a praise of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It has all the prayers included in there and all the praises included. Shamananda Prabhu, thank you for sharing the Bhaktivedanta purports with us last week, Prabhu. They are perfectly composed and relishable to us. Most definitely. Prabhupada's mercy upon us all in this age of Kali Yuga. All right. Bafana Prabhu says, never mind his shortfall. Vyasadeva was fortunate to actually have the void after the compilation of the Vedas. Condemnation leveled on his shortfall is uncompromising. The purports are also very stern, uncompromising, but pointing out the consequence of Vyasadeva's exclusion of transcendental activities of the Lord for our loving devotional service. Narada's appearance in the chapter is so auspicious. Look forward to realize if he's going to be pacified. In fact, he's going to be more than pacified. Narad Muni is going to give the direction. When you have a pure devotee, a guide like Narad Muni, like how we have Srila Prabhupada, whatever your difficulties, whatever your challenges are, they are not insurmountable. Anything is possible and everything is possible. Why? Because the pure devotees are empowered by Krishna. And by their guidance, we can perfectly come out of any challenge, any difficulty, any trouble, and be blissfully situated. So most definitely, he's going to be pacified. Hare Krishna, Suresh Prabhu. All right, wonderful. Let us continue with today's lesson. So we're going to be covering 17 to 19. Progress in bhakti is credited forever, no loss even in fall down, and 20 to 22, instruction to Vyas, glorify the Lord more vividly, which then completes these set of verses from 8 to 22. Narada reveals to Vyasadeva the importance of describing Krishna's pastimes. So 17 to 19, we're going to be hearing about progress in bhakti is credited forever. This section gives us hope. This section solidifies the fact and the wonderful opportunity we have to practice Krishna consciousness. Narad Muni already explained that the greatest asset is bhakti. And why is bhakti the greatest asset? What are some of the glories of bhakti? Narad Muni is going to be sharing in these specific verses. So just like fire, fire does not consider qualification, disqualification. Fire will burn immaterial, and it will always act in every situation. So bhakti also is so powerful that no matter how it is performed, the credits that one gets from the performance of bhakti is eternally deposited into one's spiritual bank account. Therefore, these verses are going to give us greater hope and encouragement that we should continue on this path and never ever give up no matter what. Like the saying goes, let us make Sri Krishna the only object of our interest, and he will make all other interests interesting. That is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So text 17. Vaktva sadharmam charanam bhujam hare bhajan apakvota tat patet tato yadi yatra kvababadram abuddha musakin kovatapto bhajan tam swadharmatam. One who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage. Yet, there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything. So very, very wonderful verse by Narad Muni. And here he's describing of someone who is immature. If somebody is immature on the path of bhakti, then there's definitely the tendency, the opportunity is there that one may slip and fall. If one is fully matured on the path of bhakti, if one is a pure devotee of the Lord, then one will never fall down. If one has not come to the stage of pure love for Krishna, prema bhakti, then there is always a tendency of fall down. But even such fall down will not dissipate any practice that one has been credited with in one's spiritual account. Prabhupada writes in the purport, as far as the duties of mankind are concerned, there are innumerable duties. Every man is duty bound not only to his parents, family members, society, country, humanity, other living beings and demigods, etc., but also to great philosophers, poets, scientists, etc. It is enjoined in the scriptures that one can relinquish all such duties and surrender unto the service of the Lord. So if one does so and becomes successful in the discharge of his devotional service unto the Lord, it is well and good. If one, because all these personalities that Srila Prabhupada mentioned, because they are offering service in some way or other, just like we're using technology to serve each other. And because we're using the technology, then we are indebted to those who are providing the technology. Similarly, in different ways, these personalities are providing, or like the country is providing certain services, and therefore we have to repay, we become indebted. Now there are different ways to repay the debts, but if one relinquishes the paying of the debt and even the duties that one is liable for in relation to these personalities and surrenders to the Supreme Lord, he becomes free from all those duties. That does not mean we should relinquish the duties as an excuse. Oh, I'm surrendering Krishna, therefore I have no duties. No, we should surrender. We should surrender dutifully and not whimsically. Then Prabhupada continues, but it so happens sometimes that one surrenders unto himself unto the service of the Lord by some temporary sentiment. So that was the premature type of surrender. And in the long run, due to so many other reasons, he falls down from the path of service by undesirable association. So now this definitely can happen. And as we mentioned, we should always be alert that it does not happen. And what is the main reason? It is undesirable association. This association, this undesirable association, does not fall upon one just, you know, like a lightning bolt. All of a sudden, it just, you know, you get bad association. No, that bad association can build up. It can start very, very small, just like a needle, and then come out like a plow. So one has to be very careful. We may be, you know, thinking that some association which is undesirable is okay, you know, it's not like a big thing, it's fine, but it adds up and it can overpower one. It can override one's Krishna conscious intelligence. Therefore, we should always be vigilant. And we become vigilant by good association, by desirable association. There are so many instances of this in the histories. Bharat Maj was obliged to take his birth as a stag due to his intimate attachment to a stag. He thought of the stag when he died. As such, in the next birth, he became a stag, although he did not forget the incident of his previous birth. Similarly, Chitraketu also fell due to his offense at the feet of Shiva. So from this, we can learn the lesson. Bharat Maj was practically at the last lap on this road of bhakti. You could say he actually did enter into the realm of pure love of Krishna, the dawn of pure love of Krishna. He was at the stage of bhava. Very, very, very exalted level. Practically now just one more step and is into pure love of Krishna. And from that level, he slipped. So if he can slip from that level, then what to talk about us on the different stages? So again, the warning is given. We should be careful. And we will discuss how to avoid or how to be careful so that this doesn't happen. King Chitraketu, he offended Lord Shiva. Mother Parvati got upset and cursed him. And these pastimes of these personalities will be coming in the Bhagavatam, and we will hear them, and we will gain many lessons from their lives, just like we're gaining many lessons from Srila Vyasadev's life. But in spite of all this, so even if you're right on that level and you fall, like Bharat Maj or King Chitraketu, you get cursed, etc. Still Prabhupada, and expanding on Narad Muni's point, but in spite of all this, the stress is given here to surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord, even if there's a chance of fall down. Because even though one falls down from the prescribed duties of devotional service, he will never forget the lotus feet of the Lord. Once engaged in devotional service of the Lord, one will continue the service in all circumstances. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that even a small amount of devotional service can save one from the most dangerous position. There are many instances of such examples in history. Ajamil is one of them. Ajamil in his early life was a devotee, but in his youth, he fell down. Still, he was saved by the Lord at the end. So Jad Bharat became attached to a deer, but he never forgot his devotional practice. In fact, he never lost all the credits he had accumulated. And in his next life, he remembered by the power of that devotional service, he remembered his past life. So in this way, we can see that whatever practice one is engaging in, whatever devotional service one is engaging in, there is no loss at all. Chitraketu became Vritasura, a demon, but even in the body of a demon, he was more Krishna conscious than Indra. And he went back to Godhead. Jad Bharat perfected his life. Even even after becoming a deer, and then in his next life after the deer, as Jad Bharat, he then perfected his life. Chitraketu became a demon, Vritasura, but he went back to God and perfected his life. Ajamil, same situation. He was practicing spiritual life, Krishna consciousness, became attached to a prostitute, fell down, but he was given the second chance. And he also went back to the spiritual world. So we see none of these personalities who slipped from the path of devotional service actually lost their credits. In fact, they became more serious in their next lives, or in their, Jamil, didn't take another life, but he was given a second chance, so to speak, and he became serious. So this is the glory of bhakti, that you will never lose any credits, and it's still glorious. That spiritual practice will protect one. And in order for us not to deviate from the path of bhakti, we should have good association, always keep good association, spiritual strong association. We should have well-wishers, friends that can highlight if we're deviating. Just like Jad Bharat or Maj Bharat, he didn't have any association around him. He didn't have any well-wishers to say, Prabhu, you're getting attached to a deer. Not good, not good. Be careful. He didn't have anyone to warn him. So it's always conducive to have somebody that can warn us, a friend, a close friend, a well-wishing friend, a friend who is not interested in what you do for him, a friend who is completely interested in your welfare, even if you do nothing to him, even if you don't give him anything. His only interest is in your welfare. That true friend will always guide you. So you need someone like that always to keep an eye, to help you, assist you. And then we can also have honest introspection. We should always be honest with our own selves, because if you lie, if you lie to someone, that is dangerous, that is sinful. But yeah, that is sinful. But if you lie to yourself, then that is dangerous, that is disastrous, that is suicidal. So we should always be honest with ourselves. And if we know we're getting weak, the signs will be there. As we said, when one slips, it's not like one slips immediately. Slipping down is a gradual process, practically for most devotees that slip. It's over time that one falls, because one becomes weaker and weaker. And that weakness, in that weakness, one doesn't have a morning program, one doesn't read, one doesn't associate, one doesn't practice Krishna consciousness nicely, stops chanting, and slowly then one can fall completely. So we should always be honest and see if there's danger signs, we should ask for help. Now, spiritually, no matter what your position is, no matter what happens to you, it's glorious. If you perfect your life, it's glorious. If you slip from the path of bhakti, no problem. Next life, you will never forget. You will still remember the Lord. And that remembrance will be your saving grace. So it's glorious. Whereas if you compare materially, people may want to try to achieve perfection in material life. Like this man who's in this rat race, this wheel is just running and running. The challenge of material life is you cannot elevate your consciousness. You're practically running on the same spot like a rat. And just like you're in a rat race, you stay a rat. You can't elevate in your consciousness. And there is no glory. Even if you achieve materially what people may consider perfection, all money, all wealth, all beauty, all fame, whatever people have as an understanding of perfection, still at the time of death, you lose everything and you don't carry anything in your next life. Right? So if you have a million rand bank account, that bank account stays and you do not take anything with you. Yes, you do take your pious activities or your sinful activities, most definitely your devotional activities. But other than that, you take no material possessions. Therefore, materially, we find that if you're only endeavoring materially, that is totally disastrous for any living being. Prabhupada in the purport 240 Bhagavad Gita says, what profit a man if he gains the whole world yet suffers the loss of his eternal soul? So that's the challenge with material life. It is miserable if one doesn't have Krishna consciousness, and even in its so-called perfect form, it has no value. Whereas bhakti, on the other hand, practicing our relationship with Krishna is the greatest asset, and even if one slips down, it will protect one. Text 18. Tasyeva heto prayate tako vido na labhyate yad pramatam uparyada talabhyate dukavad anyata sukham kale na sarvatra gabiraram hasa. Persons who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined should endeavor for that purposeful end, which is not obtainable even by wandering from the topmost planet Brahmaloka down to the lowest planet Patala. As far as happiness derived from sense enjoyment is concerned, it can be obtained automatically in course of time, just as in course of time we obtain miseries even though we do not desire them. Beautiful verse by Narad Muni. And there are two specific points. The first one is sharing with us what is the greatest aspiration we should have. And this greatest aspiration is only for those who are Kovido, who are intelligent persons, who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined. It's only for them. And what is that? They should strive for that purposeful end, which is not obtainable even by wandering from the topmost planet to the lowest planet. We should strive for something that we cannot get within this universe. That's what we should strive for. That's intelligence. And then the second point in this verse is also extremely important. Every motivational speaker out there that says you can achieve anything you want, here is a very clear statement by Narad Muni that they have it wrong. You cannot achieve anything you want in the material world. Why? Prabhupada is also going to expand this point. Let us hear. Prabhupada first talks about don't waste your time. Every man, everywhere, is trying to obtain the greatest amount of sense enjoyment by various endeavors. Some men are busy engaged in trade, industry, economic development, political supremacy, etc. And some of them are engaged in fruitive work to be happy in the next life by attaining higher planets. It is said that on the moon, the inhabitants are fit for greater sense enjoyment by drinking somaras, and the Pitraloka is obtained by good charitable work. So there are various programs for sense enjoyment, either during this life or in the life after life. Some are trying to reach the moon and other planets by some mechanical arrangement. And for them, they are very anxious to get into such planets without doing good work. But it is not to happen. Just give me 1 second. I just need to, we didn't have water today, so I'm just going to shut the tap. Okay. So there are various programs for sense enjoyment, either during this life or in the life after death. Some are trying to reach the moon and other planets by some mechanical arrangement, or they're very anxious to get into such planets without doing good work. But it is not to happen. By the law of the Supreme, different planets are meant for different grades of living beings according to the work they have performed. By good work only, as prescribed in scriptures, one can obtain birth in a good family, opulence, good education, and good godly features. We see also that even in this life, one obtains a good education or money by good work. Similarly, in our next birth, we get such desirable positions only by good work. Otherwise, it would not so happen that two persons born in the same place at the same time are seen differently placed according to their previous work. But all material positions are impermanent. So the first point Prabhupada is making is that people have many arrangements. They make many arrangements to try to enjoy. And you can strive in this world to do as much as you want to get, as much pleasure as you want, but you will not be able to achieve what you strive for. Why? Because what you're going to get is destined due to your past good work, not your current good work. Okay? What you do in this life fructifies in future lives. Another point Srila Prabhupada makes is different planets are there for different grades of beings, and you can't just fly to a planet. You need piety to enter, just like you need a visa to enter a planet, you need piety. That's the visa for entering into any planet. In fact, when they had the first moon landing in 1969, Srila Prabhupada was with the disciples watching the moon landing. And everybody was glued to the television. The devotees even hired a television to watch the moon landing, and everybody was watching moon landing. The devotees were massaging Srila Prabhupada's head. Prabhupada's eyes was closed, and everyone, the whole world was excited, right? They were landing on the moon. And then they landed on the moon, and Prabhupada kept on saying, so what are you doing now? And they were giving commentary, and then they landed on the moon. And the devotee said, Prabhupada, they landed on the moon. And Prabhupada, had his eyes closed, and said they did not land on the moon. And the devotees, especially the scientific devotees were flabbergasted. How can Srila Prabhupada say they didn't land when we seen it live on television? And some devotees even left because they couldn't accept how Srila Prabhupada said that it did not land on the moon. And now we find years later, so much of the controversies now, obviously there was controversy that it didn't land, or conspiracy that it didn't land. And now there's so much evidence of the fact that they did not land on the moon. Whereas Prabhupada already knew at that time. Why? Because scripture says you can't just go into the moon planet like that. There is piety required for you to enter. And even if you enter into the moon planet, you would see personalities there. You would see Chandra is there. The demigods in the heavenly planet, in the moon planet, there are demigods, they are staying there. So it's not a vacant planet. Now, no matter what position one attains in this material world, Prabhupada says, but all such material positions are impermanent. Position in the topmost Brahmaloka and the lowest Patala are all changeable according to our own work. The philosophically inclined person must not be tempted by such changeable positions. He should try to get into the permanent life of bliss and knowledge, where he will not be forced to come back to the miserable material world, either in this planet or that planet. Miseries and mixed happiness are two features of material life, and they are obtained in Brahmaloka and also in other lokas also. They are obtained in the life of the demigods and also in the life of dogs, and hogs. The miseries and mixed happiness of living beings are only a different degree and quality, but no one is free from the miseries of birth, death, old age, and disease. Similarly, everyone has his destined happiness also. I'll read that again. Similarly, everyone has his destined happiness also. No one can get more or less of these things simply by personal endeavors. So you tell every motivational speaker out there that says you can get whatever you want, and you tell them this statement: no one can get more or less of these things, this pleasure and pain, so to speak, these things simply by personal endeavor. Even if they are obtained, they can be lost again. One should not, therefore, waste time with these flimsy things. One should only endeavor to go back to Godhead. That should be the mission of everyone's life. So now we know what our mission should be. Doesn't matter if you're male, female, black, white, Indian, tall, short, father, mother, doesn't matter where you are, what position you are. Everyone's life mission should be to go back to Godhead. Go to that place where there is no birth, death, disease, and old age. That is the spiritual world. And one can enter into the spiritual only through the process of devotional service, by cultivating a relationship with Krishna. So that should be the aim for every human being. Those who are intelligent will strive for that, should make that the ultimate goal. And we should be able to live in this world, in whatever situation, whatever position we are in, with the prime focus of increasing and cultivating our Krishna consciousness on this path of bhakti, so that we can go closer and closer and ultimately reach the spiritual world. So in relation to Prabhupada's points, we're going to cover the purpose. We're going to cover some eternal truths that Srila Prabhupada again highlights in his lectures. In Bhagavad Gita 4.8, Prabhupada says, your fortune will go with you in your head. So Bhagavata indicates tasyev heto prayateto kovido. Kovido means one who is actually intelligent, not the mudas, rascals, actually one who is intelligent. He should try to solve the problems which is not possible to be done even if you travel all over space up to the highest planet. Uparyada. Uparyada means upside all planets and downside all planets. There are millions of planets if you travel, but these problems, just like your fortune will go with you in your head. You may go to the moon planet, but this head will go with you. So there is a very nice proverb in Bengali. Yadi yao bange kafala yabe sange. Even if you go to Bengal, your forehead will go with you. That means wherever you go, this fortune will go with you. Generally, when we speak of fortune, we touch our head. Sometimes you say, oh, it is my misfortune. That means fortune may be written here. It is said. So wherever you go, this fortune will go with you. So Prabhupada's first point that in making here is that it doesn't matter where you travel, whatever you came with, like your forehead, wherever you go, your forehead is going with you. Your forehead is not going to change. Wherever your head goes, your fortune goes. So you can travel to the topmost planet, lowest planet, doesn't matter which planet you're going. You can't change your fortune by such travel. Your fortune is going to go with you. Now, Prabhupada talks about how my belly problem will be solved. Then one may question, if I simply try to achieve Krishna consciousness, then how my belly problem will be solved? The answer is talabhyate dukhavat ananyat sukham, ananyata sukham. According to Vedic injunction, you are destined to achieve a certain amount of happiness and a certain amount of distress also. because you cannot achieve here in this material world any happiness which is not disturbed. There must be distress. So there are two things, happiness and distress. So as you are getting distress without inviting it, nobody invites distress. Let distress come upon me. Nobody invites, but it comes. Similarly, even if you do not pray for happiness, whatever is destined to you, it will come. So don't bother yourself about material distress and happiness. Try to achieve Krishna consciousness, which you could not achieve in so many lives after life. That is the injunction. That is called absolute knowledge. This was Durban, October 1975. So very, very beautiful point by Srila Prabhupada in his lecture, and very clear, stressing that same point. Nobody prays for distress, but you get distress. But yet everybody tries to pray for happiness and they're thinking they're going to get happiness due to their prayers, etc. No, you're going to get happiness that is destined to you. So both happiness and distress already destined when you come into this world. At the time of your birth, the amount of happiness and distress is already destined. You cannot increase it or decrease it. And your actions and the law of karma and interactions in the world basically plays out those destined happiness and distress. It's like, you try your best to avoid yourself from getting distress. You try your best from avoiding, you just try your best and avoid getting COVID. You wear masks, you sanitize, you're fanatical, and you wash everything and you try your best, and all of a sudden you get COVID, wondering where did that come from? Because that is destiny. So destiny means I buy a ticket, and as soon as I buy a ticket, I'm destined to go to the destination related to the ticket. If I buy a ticket to Cape Town, I'm on the flight, I'm destined to go to Cape Town. I cannot change my destiny, which is Cape Town. Now, what I can do is change or behave in different ways while I'm in the plane. And when I land in Cape Town, which is destiny, I can reap the fruits or suffer the fruits of my actions. So while in this world, in this life, I can act, which will then give me, in my next life, the desired results. So that we can do. But what I'm destined to get, I will definitely get. So therefore, Bhagavatam, Narad Muni is encouraging us to not try to worry so much about happiness and distress, which is even available to the animals. Even the animals have the greatest material pleasure, which is sex life. Right? They also have distress. So this is part of material nature. We want to strive for Krishna consciousness. This is intelligence. Srila Prabhupada says, but he can change his position with reference to his relationship with God. That example that I gave about flying, and within the plane, you can make friends, you can make enemies, etc. So by acting in Krishna consciousness, we can actually change our position. Prabhupada, in his lectures or discussions, where Hayagriva says, so far improvement of economic condition and other conditions, that is already fixed up. One cannot change it. So that is confirmation in the Srimad Bhagavatam. He is creating his own destiny. Just like it is said, man is the architect of his own destiny, own fortune. Destiny cannot change. It is fixed up. Tasyeva heto prayateto kovido. Anyone who is very expert and intelligent, he should know that destiny cannot be changed, but he can change his position with reference to his relationship with God. At the present moment, he is forgetful of his relationship, but by good association, by Vedic knowledge, by training, he can change his position. And in that way, he can improve his destiny also. or he can change his destiny. Karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhaktibhajam. A person, by engaging himself in devotional service, he can change his destiny. Otherwise, destiny is very strong. It cannot change. We know that by practicing Krishna consciousness, even by clapping, by chanting, by performing many devotional activities, we can change our karma. So that way the Lord takes charge of our karma. We get Krishna karma, and by Krishna's wish and desire, that karma can change. So in that way, we can change karma. But otherwise, without Krishna, without devotional service, there is no change. Then there's a class of men who must lie down care of footpath. And then Prabhupada talks about next section, which I'm going to read. They were not very much anxious to improve material position. Shastra says, don't uselessly try to improve your position. The modern economists, they'll say, no, we are not going to accept this, but it is a fact. People are trying to improve the condition of poor men, but it is going on. But there are thousands and millions of poor men. 50 years ago, when I first came to Bombay, at that time I was Grihastha. I saw that there were persons lying down care of footpath. And 50 years after, we are seeing the same thing is going on, no change. There is a class of men who must lie down care of footpath. There are so many institutions, Daridra Narayan Seva, but why they are still Daridras? Why they are still Daridra? That means you cannot change. It is not possible. It is not possible. So people who are poor are on the street paths. 50 years ago, they were there when Prabhupada, after 50 years, they're still there. And even now we find they're still there. Now we may say, well, it's because of corruption, because of people making this arrangement. But the underlying philosophical point is that according to one's actions, if one has abused one's wealth that the Lord has given in one's past life, then when one comes in this life, one will have to suffer that consequence and that reaction. And therefore one will be in a situation where one is poor to suffer the consequence. That is Vedic civilization. They were not very much anxious to improve material position. Even at the present moment, you go to a village, the innocent villagers, they are satisfied with the position Krishna has given, but they are anxious to improve their spiritual life. This is still, you will find. Of course, it is not that you will not try to earn your livelihood. That you must, but you should not endeavor or give more time for your so-called material improvement. Better save time and utilize that time for improving your Krishna consciousness. That is perfection. That is the injunction of Shastra. The seva heto prayateta of kovido. But shall I not try it for my happiness? No. If you try, where is your happiness? You shall get so much degree of happiness as you are destined, not more than that. So why should you waste your time? So Prabhupada is giving an example of people who are in the village who are satisfied and they try to improve their spiritual life. So that should be our focus. And in this this lecture except Prabhupada also is making the point that, what about your livelihood? Somebody might say, okay, so then I'm just going to sit, and since my happiness and distress is destined, I'm just going to sit and do nothing and wait for things to come. So depending on your faith, if your faith is very strong in the Vedic scriptures, in the proper understanding of philosophy, then yes. But otherwise, you at least, Prabhupada says, you must endeavor, you must try. So the minimum endeavor has to be there. And that minimum endeavor will then obviously allow you to continue to survive. Sometimes devotees may use this as an excuse to not do something. that, well, Prabhu, what to do? I don't have a job. It's my karma. I'll just accept it. The challenge is you don't know it's your karma because you don't have that vision. You're not Trekal again. So you can't just use an excuse to not act and say, well, Prabhu, what to do? It's my karma. Or I'm sick. What to do? It's my karma. No. You have to endeavor. Now, there's a trick again or trap that how much do I endeavor now? Because I may endeavor and endeavor and endeavor and lose sight of my spiritual practice. So I don't want to lose sight of my spiritual practice. I want to keep my spiritual practice in the forefront. I want to keep improving my spiritual practice. At the same time, I need to endeavor. I also need to understand that whatever I'm destined to get, I will get, not more, not less. So therefore, one has to balance and adjust to say, okay, I'm going to try and I'm going to endeavor, not at the cost of my spiritual life, but I will endeavor to try to rectify the situation. So if I rectify the situation, if I become a little more healthy, if I strive to improve my economic situation a little more, at least I can be more materially well situated to practice spiritual life more diligently, more vigilantly, more seriously, more enthusiastically. So I can definitely strive, because that type of striving, keeping in mind one's spiritual focus, is not against the process of bhakti. Over endeavoring, striving, and really getting so absorbed and focused that you have practically no time to chant your rounds nicely. You have no time to read. You have no time for spiritual association. That is disastrous. You're not going to advance spiritually, and neither are you going to improve materially, because you may be destined not to get more. Okay, so one has to be very careful, and therefore guidance and association and proper use of one's intellect is a key factor. But one thing is clear: if you're not destined to be a multi-billionaire, you will never be a multi-billionaire. No matter what you do, no matter who you follow, you will never be. They say, success leaves clues. That's their famous statement. And if you follow those clues, you can achieve the same result. Well, they're lying to you, because the Bhagavatam is the absolute truth. And the Bhagavatam is making very clear: if you're destined to be a pauper, you will stay a pauper. The only person that can change your destiny is the pure devotee and Krishna. Why? Krishna is teaching you to stay and be a pauper and bring him into your life. In that way, you will get the greatest gift of pure devotional service. And immaterial of whether you are wealthy or not, you will be able to perfect your life. Text 19. So the results of bhakti are permanent. Navai jano jatu katan chanav vrajen mukunda sevya yavad anga samsritim smaran mukundangre upaguna nampona vihatum icchenna rasagraho janam. My dear Vyasa, even though a devotee of Lord Krishna sometimes falls down, somehow or other, he certainly does not undergo material existence like others, fruit of workers, etc. Because a person who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again. Another beautiful verse. So I'd like to ask in the chat, you can please answer, how many of you, when you came in touch with Krishna consciousness the first time, so specifically the first time, and even during your practice or even now, but definitely the first time, how many of you experienced a special feeling, a special taste that you never felt anywhere in any circumstance, but it was specifically when you came in contact with Krishna consciousness, your first festival, you went to first Rath Yatra, whether it was reading a book or whatever, you felt something totally different that you never felt before. You can just say yes in the chat if you felt that. Tamami says yes, Atmadarshini says yes, Sukadeva Goswami says yes, Machar Achanit says yes, Suresh says yes. Okay, good. Shastri Mai says yes, Nimai says yes, Kalpana says yes. Suran says yes, meeting and reading for the first time Srila Prabhupada's books. Correct. So that means Krishna has given everyone, every single soul out there, and this is the proof. Everyone that comes in contact with Krishna for the first time, Krishna gives him special taste. Then Krishna pulls that taste away, because now Krishna wants you to hanker for that and be greedy and start coming more to the temple. Come, get association. So this is how Krishna deals with his devotees. Krishna gives you a lot of taste and then he pulls it away. If one keeps on practicing, that taste will, in the beginning it goes like a seesaw up and down, but as you become steady, it becomes steadily increasing. Now Muni is saying here that even if a devotee sometimes falls down, Mukunda Sevya Ananyat Anga Samsmriti, he will always remember the Supreme Lord, even when he falls away. Why? Because Rasa Graho Jana, he has got that taste of the lotus feet of Krishna. And this taste he can never forget. This taste of Krishna consciousness, once you get it, it's practically ingrained in your consciousness. And when you leave Krishna consciousness altogether, that taste becomes more and more prominent, because you're not going to find it in the territory of Maya. So now Prabhupada's beautiful purport is revealing a very, very important lesson, that as an institution, as an organization, as the leaders and as devotees, we must imbibe and learn. Extremely important lesson I'm reading. A devotee of the Lord automatically becomes uninterested in the enchantment of material existence, because he is rasagraha, or one who has tasted the sweetness of the lotus feet of the Lord. So as you advance in Krishna consciousness, as you advance in your relationship with Krishna, automatically you will become disinterested. You'll start losing taste for material pleasures. Just like before I came to Krishna consciousness, I loved playing volleyball. I love watching movies. Then when I became a devotee, all those activities just fell away. Even though I was attached to them, they just dropped off without any force, so to speak. Why? Because of getting a taste, getting a higher taste, param drishtva nivartate, getting a taste for Krishna. So this is a sign of advancement. This is how you can measure your advancement. That things that you were previously attached to automatically falls away. One time in one program, Namahata program, one new gentleman came to the program, and they were sitting in the back, and after the program he asked me a question. He says, so Prabhu, I smoke. That doesn't mean I need to give up my smoking to be a devotee. I said, no. you don't need to give up your smoking. What you need to do is become attached to chanting. When you start chanting, then your smoking will leave automatically. That's a test of advancement. There are certainly many instances where devotees of the Lord have fallen down due to uncongenial association. So here's again, Prabhupada is qualifying what allows us to fall down. In the previous purport we read, unwanted association, uncongenial association. So therefore we should be very careful. This is the root cause of us slipping. We need to have congenial, good, powerful, strong association. Just like fruitive workers who are always prone to degradation, but even though he falls down, a devotee is never to be considered the same as a fallen karmi. I'll read it again. But even though he falls down, a devotee is never considered the same as a fallen karmi. So karmi may fall prey to illicit sex. A devotee may also fall prey to illicit sex. They're not the same. They're not the same. And Prabhupada expands further why. A karmi suffers the result of his own fruitive reactions, whereas a devotee is reformed by chastisement directed by the Lord himself. And here in the sentence, Prabhupada is not saying whereas a pure devotee is reformed. No, a pure devotee never falls. A practicing devotee. So a practicing devotee is reformed by chastisement directed by the Lord himself. So therefore his suffering, the devotee's suffering is totally different. Even in his suffering, Krishna is there as chastisement. The suffering of an orphan and the suffering of a beloved child of a king are not one and the same. An orphan is really poor because he has no one to take care of him. But a beloved son of a rich man, although he appears to be on the same level as an orphan, is always under the vigilance of his capable father. A devotee of the Lord, due to wrong association, again, note, unwanted association, uncongenial association, wrong association, probably is using the adjectives, describing very clearly the root of us slipping. Sometimes imitates the fruit of workers. The fruit of workers want to lord it over the material world. Similarly, a neophyte devotee foolishly thinks of accumulating some material power in exchange for devotional service. Such foolish devotees are sometimes put into difficulty by the Lord himself. As a special favor, he may remove all material paraphernalia. By such action, the bewildered devotee is forsaken by all friends and relatives, and so he comes to his senses again by the mercy of the Lord and is set right to execute his devotional service. Wonderful. A devotee, if he slips, we should never see his fall down in the same light as a materialist. He's still very much under the protection, the supervision, and the caretakering of the Supreme Lord. The Lord is personally administering chastisement. And the devotee, because he's rasagra, because he's tasted this devotional service of the Lord, even when he slips, that devotional service, that taste comes up very, very strongly, and he remembers that. He cannot forget the Lord. In fact, he may be lamenting, he may be repenting. The devotees has forsaken him and the friends, his relatives, etc. But the Lord never forgets him. And because he's repenting, he's remembering the Lord, smaranam, he's thinking of the Lord. He, by the mercy of the Lord, becomes purified, gains his position again in devotional service, and continues to execute devotional service. The example can be given, a karmi's life is like this crystal ball, like a glass ball, and a devotee's life is like this rubber ball. So when these two balls, one is the karmi's glass ball and the rubber ball, when they fall, when the glass ball falls, it falls to the ground and cracks. But when the rubber ball falls, it falls to the ground and bounces. So a devotee's life is like that. He may fall down, but then he bounces up quickly. And because a devotee's fall down and a karmi's fall down are two totally different experiences, we should never mix them or consider them to be the same. And because the Lord is still involved with the devotee, we should always keep the door open to accept the devotees back into association so that they can continue their services. We should never close the doors upon anyone who experiences such a challenge. Prabhupada continues. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is also said that such fallen devotees are given a chance to take birth in a family of higher qualified Brahmins or in rich mercantile families. A devotee in such a position is not as fortunate as one who is chastised by the Lord and put into a position seemingly of helplessness. The devotee who becomes helpless by the will of the Lord is more fortunate than those who are born in good families. Fallen devotees born in good families may forget the lotus feet of the Lord because they are less fortunate. But the devotee who is put into a fallen condition is more fortunate because he swiftly returns to the lotus feet of the Lord, thinking himself helpless all around. Pure devotional service is so spiritually relishable that a devotee becomes automatically uninterested in material enjoyment. That is the sign of perfection in progressive devotional service. A pure devotee continuously remembers the lotus feet of the Lord, Shri Krishna, and does not forget him even for a moment, not even in exchange for all the opulence of the three worlds. So remembering the Supreme Lord is priceless. No amount of wealth can match in the three worlds. Even if you have all the wealth in the three worlds, it cannot match remembrance of the Supreme Lord. So therefore, Narad Muni is encouraging us that the path of bhakti is glorious. Even if you slip, it's glorious because the Lord will supervise the punishment and help you regain your Krishna consciousness very, very swiftly, very quickly. There was an example of one devotee. He was practicing Krishna consciousness, and then he had difficulties and he fell away. And he fell away and he decided, I'm not going to be a devotee anymore. So for 10 years, he decided not to practice Krishna consciousness and never visited a temple, just practically wanted to give up Krishna consciousness completely. So for 10 years, he was doing that. It so happened that after 10 years, he joined a company. And in that company, he joined a department where there were people, that would go as a team to different places. So one day, the team that he was with decided that today we're going to be visiting a Hare Krishna temple. So this devotee who left, he said, no, I'm not coming with you guys because I have some history with them and I'm not interested in going back there. So they said, no, but it's okay. You can just come with us in the car. You can stay in the car. You don't need to come in. So he said, okay. So then he jumped into the car and with them, and they came, and for them, they were just basically visiting. They would generally go visiting for different places. So that they decided to visit a Hare Krishna temple. So then they came to the temple, they all jumped off the car, and another of his friends said, hey, why don't you just come in for 2 minutes? We just take a photograph and then you can come back. At least, it's like the team took a photograph, went to this place. So he's saying, no, it's okay. I don't want to go in there. I'm not interested. His friends said, no, it's okay. I know you don't. Just 2 minutes, take a photograph. And he said, okay. So they walked into the temple, and this devotee who left, he slowly, walking, came into the courtyard. As soon as he walked into the courtyard of the temple, he started sensing, he could, sense the atmosphere and some of the memories that he had, because he was serving full-time as a pujari 10 years ago in the temple. So he was staying in the temple for many years. So he started sensing that and feeling that energy, that vibration. And slowly his eyes started becoming moist. So he carried on walking, came into the temple room. As soon as he walked into the temple room, the scent of the rose, of the flowers offered to the Lord, and the incense went to his nose. He started hearing the kirtan, seeing the pictures. More and more memories started flashing. He started recollecting his experience, all the good experiences that he had, all started bubbling in his heart. They started, reviving in his heart, and he started, his hairs started raising. He started perspiring. Slowly, more tears started coming from his eyes. Then he looked at the pujari who was doing the arti, and he was a pujari and he loved offering the chamara with devotion to the Lord. So when he saw the devotee offering the chamara, as soon as he saw the devotee offering the chamara, his consciousness went back to the days he was offering the chamara, and he just broke down crying. And the devotees, or his friends were, then asking him, you okay? And he told his friends, I'm okay, don't worry. I'm not coming back with you guys. I'm not coming back with you people. You people can go. And he joined back and became a full-time devotee again. So like that, Narad Muni is saying, because that taste you'll never forget. That taste is there. Once you're a devotee, just like how you're all associating with the Bhagavatam, your material life is not going to be the same. You cannot forget Krishna. It's impossible. Even if you try your best to forget Krishna, the more you try, the more you're going to remember Krishna. You are completely, you have completely destroyed your material life. It's only a question of time before you perfect your life. Another time, in 1972, there was a devotee called Devarshi, and he was a very good BTG, Back to Godhead magazine distributor. And he had some fall down. So he was staying in San Francisco temple. And because he had a fall down, the temple president kicked him out of the temple. And the temple president also called the Chicago temple and told the devotees there that don't allow him anymore in the temple because he fell down. He's fallen. So this devotee Devarshi, he happened to come to this Chicago temple, and Srila Prabhupada was there at that time. So he was sitting on the grass waiting to come in the temple. And the devotee there, whose name was Bhaktadas, not sure whether there was a temple president, but he was there, and he, the temple president of San Francisco had spoken to Bhaktadas. to say, don't allow Devarshi to come in. And Bhaktadas was saying that, he couldn't stop anyone from coming into the temple. So he went out and he spoke to Devarshi and said, Prabhupada is here. Why don't you come and speak to Prabhupada? So Devarshi took the opportunity, went in, came to speak to Srila Prabhupada and revealed everything to Srila Prabhupada and told Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, this is what happened, and no temple wants to keep me. Prabhupada said, don't worry, you come and travel with me. So this is Prabhupada's words. You come and travel with me. Nobody wanted him because he's fallen, but Srila Prabhupada was happy to say, no problem, you come with me and travel with me. This was Prabhupada's compassion. Prabhupada never rejected anyone. Prabhupada was always into reforming, always into giving devotees the association to improve. If you reject anyone, how are they going to get good association out there to improve? It is by the association that we become purified. Yes, those who are sincere, they will always, and if they slip, they will always repent, they will always be humble, they will always want to improve. And we should always give them the opportunity. In this way, there should always be hope for everyone, no matter what. The shelter should never be taken away, even for those who slip. We should give them shelter. Just like in a family of close-knit brothers and sisters, if somebody falls down, you don't reject your siblings, you don't reject your family relationship. You try to encourage and you try to say, no problem, please continue, or please try to improve. So like that, we should always give hope. The Lord himself always gives opportunity for the devotee to engage, for the devotee to become more Krishna conscious, for the devotee to improve. The Lord always gives opportunity. In this regard, when Lord Ramachandra was attacking Ravana, it is described that Ravana had many heads and the Lord would shoot one head off and another head would come up. And then the Lord would shoot another head off, another head would come up and shoot another head. In this way, the Lord continued. And it is, the Acharyas described that one reason why the Lord was shooting his heads one by one was the Lord would shoot his head off, cut it completely off, because that head, had false ego. And when a new head appeared on Ravana's body, the Lord was hoping that at least that head would have some intelligence to surrender. And that head didn't have intelligence surrender, so the Lord chopped it off to give him another opportunity. And another head came, hoping that at least he would surrender. So in this way, the Lord constantly gave Ravana opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to surrender. So this is how, if the Lord is constantly giving us the opportunity to surrender, then we should most definitely always keep the doors open for, and even if a devotee slips, we should keep the doors open and help that devotee come back into association. And even when he comes back into association, we should be very careful never to find fault of his previous fall down. The glory of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada says he'll not have to suffer like others. So, Mukunda Sevi. Similarly, anyone who has taken to Krishna consciousness, even if he falls down, generally he does not, but even taking for accepted that he is somehow or other, he's fallen. Still, he'll not have to suffer like others. Just like here animals, under the protection of the devotees, at least he has no fear of his life. No devotee will kill. Here the cows, the horse, the dog, they are assured of their life. Therefore, they are not like ordinary dogs. They are not ordinary cows. Therefore, it is said, Sri Swami says, Mukunda Seva, Mukunda Sevi, even if he is degraded, he's not degraded as ordinary man. He's not degraded. Hot juice, hot sugar juice. Anyone who has associated in Krishna consciousness, I mean to say association, he cannot forget. Rasa graho. jana. Here it is stated that smaran mukundangre upa guhanam punar vihatum ichenana. Vihatum means to give up. He may fall down from Maya's influence for time being, but he cannot give it up. This is the sign. He cannot give up. Just like example is given, just like hot sugar juice. It is very nice. Because it is hot, one is feeling uncomfortable to take it. But because it is sweet, he cannot give up. He cannot give away. He cannot give away. Hot sugar juice. Similarly, this Krishna consciousness is so nice that if somebody becomes attracted by some kind of mayas, I mean to say influence, still he does not like to give up this Krishna consciousness like others. This life or next life, Krishna will not leave him. This is the specific qualification of a Krishna conscious person. Smaran mukundangri upagunu hanam puna. One who has chanted Hare Krishna, he cannot give it up. Cannot give it up. He has to come again. This life or next life, Krishna will not leave him. Krishna, oh surrender nice, one surrenders sincerely. Krishna, I am yours. Krishna will never leave him. He will protect you. But if he had become little stronger, then there is no question of fall down. Rasagra rasena grihate vasi kriyate. Krishna vasi kriyate. Vasi kriyate means hypnotized. It is so nice that one becomes hypnotized. Otherwise, why the boys are working so hard? They are all qualified. They can earn money outside. In your country, sufficient money is being paid for work, but they are hypnotized here. So we become hypnotized by Krishna's beauty, Krishna's taste, Krishna's the beauty of bhakti. And if we sincere, Krishna, I am yours, then the Lord will always be with us, even through our challenges and difficulties. There was a nice a picture, a portrait, a painting. And in this painting, they show 2 footsteps on the beachfront, a set of 2 footsteps. And then they show a set of 1 footsteps. And the artist writes there that during the times had no difficulties, the Lord was always side by side next to me. And therefore you can see the 2 sets of footprints. But during my difficulties, there is only 1 set of footprints. And he asks, why? Why, my Lord, is there only 1 set of footprints when I'm in difficulties, and 2 sets when I'm not in difficulty? Yours and mine. And when I'm in difficulty, there's only 1. And he answers. The Lord answers. And the Lord says, my dear son, when there is no difficulty, I'm with you side by side. And when you're in difficulty, then I'm carrying you. So that 1 set of footprints is my footprints, not yours, because I'm carrying you. So like that, the Lord will always be with us, and the Lord will never, ever forsaken his devotees. And then 20 to 22, next set of verses, Narad Muni instructs Vyasadeva. So Prabhupada, in another lecture, 1518 in New Vrindavan, says, therefore Narad is trying to convince Vyasadeva that you preach Krishna consciousness. Whatever you have so far written, books, they have been useless. Now you write something by reading which one will become immediately Krishna conscious. So this is the standard of the Bhagavatam that Narad Muni is going to instruct Vyasadeva to compile, that just by reading, one becomes Krishna conscious. So text 20. Idam hi vishvam bhagavan ivetaro yato jagatstana nirodha sambhava Tatti swayam veda bhavam statapite pradeshamatram bhavata pradarshitam. Supreme Lord, personality of Godhead, is himself this cosmos, and he is aloof from it. And he is still, and still he is aloof from it. From him only has this cosmic manifestation emanated. In him it rests, and unto him it enters after annihilation. Your good self knows all about this. I have given you only a synopsis. Narad Muni is now instructing Srila Vyasadeva about Krishna's relationship with this creation, which the Lord has already explained in Bhagavad Gita as well, that the cosmos is non-different from the Supreme Lord. At the same time, it is different. Idam hi vishvam Bhagavan ivetaro. This cosmos is also the Lord. At the same time, it's also not the Lord. For a pure devotee, the conception of Mukunda, Lord Shri Krishna, is both personal and impersonal. The impersonal cosmic situation is also Mukunda because it is the emanation of the energy of Mukunda. For example, a tree is a complete unit, whereas the leaves and branches of the tree are emanated parts and parcels of the tree. The leaves and branches of the tree are also the tree, but the tree itself is neither the leaves nor the branches. The Vedic version that the whole cosmic creation is nothing but Brahman means that since everything is emanating from the Supreme Brahman, nothing is apart from him. Similarly, the part and parcels, hands and legs, are called the body. But the body as the whole unit is neither the hands nor the legs. The Lord is the transcendental form of eternity, cognition, and beauty. And thus the creation of the energy of the Lord appears to be partially eternal, full of knowledge, and beautiful also. The captivated conditioned souls under the influence of the external energy Maya are therefore entrapped in the network of material nature. They accept this as all in all, and they have no information of the Lord who is the primal cause, nor have they information that the parts and the parcels of the body being detached from the whole body are no longer the same hands and or legs as when attached to the body. Similarly, a godless civilization detached from the transcendental service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is just like a detached hand or leg. Such parts and parcels may appear like hands and legs, but they have no efficiency. Devotee of the Lord, Srila Vyasadeva, knows this very well. He is further advised by Srila Narada to expand the idea so that the entrapped conditioned souls may take lessons from him to understand the Supreme Lord as a primal cause. So the first point is that the material nature is non-different from the Supreme Lord because it is the expansion of the energy of Krishna. Just like the sun and the sun rays. We can, we say that when we experience the sun rays, we say the sun is out. We cannot fully experience the sun, but we can experience the sun rays. But when we see the sun rays, we relate it to the sun. So the sun rays are non-different from the sun, but at the same time, it is not the sun. And we can experience the sun through the sun rays. Similarly, in the material world, we're experiencing the Lord through his energies in the form of nature. And in the Vedas, there are both statements that the Lord, the energy of the Lord, the material creation is the energy of the Lord and is not different from the Lord. And there are also statements like here Narad Muni is saying that the material nature is also not the Lord. The Lord, as was described, absolute truth, has three features: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. And Brahman, the energy of God, is all pervasive. So everything that exists in creation is connected, is unified in the form of Brahman energy. And those who are Krishna conscious, they can see the Supreme Lord in that feature. One time in a lecture, Prabhupada asked for any questions, and one Indian lady stood up and she said, Swamiji, can you see God? And it was like challenging. So Prabhupada said, yes, can't you see God? Then Prabhupada looked around and said, God is everywhere, can't you see? And she got stumped, she didn't know what to say. Then Prabhupada said, can you not see God? And she didn't answer. Then Prabhupada asked her, do you want to see God? And she looked down and she said, no, Swamiji. And then Prabhupada concluded, that's why you can't see God. So God is everywhere. And a pure devotee is able to see Krishna's energy, Krishna's manifestation in nature. He's able to see Krishna's manifestation in every of his activities. He's able to see Krishna's manifestation in hand, in all that happens in this material world. At the same time, the devotee knows that Krishna has a personal form, which is completely separate from his energies and is in full eternality, bliss, and knowledge in full form, in vigraha, in the spiritual world. And one can develop a loving relationship with that form. And Prabhupada also gives a beautiful analogy of this example of the hands and legs. I normally give the example of the hand, that if your finger is attached to the hand, it has value. But as soon as your finger is detached from the hand, if it gets cut, you take that finger and you freeze it, so you take it quickly to the doctor to stitch it. But let's say there's a finger that's detached to the hand, from the hand on the road, and you walking, and you see this detached finger. You don't say, oh, how wonderful. There's the finger. Let me put it in pocket. I can use it as spare parts and keep it. No, you will say obnoxious. It's somebody's finger. Yuck. Because that finger is dislocated from somebody's hand. It has no value. It's disgusting. But a finger that's attached to your hand has value. Similarly, a hand attached to your arm has value. Your arm attached to the body has value. Your body attached to the soul has value. The soul attached to the Supreme Soul has value. So if a finger is detached, it's useless. A hand is detached, it's useless. The body is detached, it's useless. As Prabhupada says, there's no efficiency. When the soul is detached from the Supreme Lord, it has no efficiency. So therefore, Narad Muni is encouraging Srila Vyasadeva, please compile Srimad Bhagavatam and enlighten souls about that they are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and they need to become efficient in devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Identical with the Lord. Prabhupada continues in his purport. According to the Vedic version, the Lord is naturally fully powerful, and thus his supreme energies are always perfect and identical with him. Both the spiritual and material skies and their paraphernalia are emanations of the eternal and external energies of the Lord. External energy is comparatively inferior, whereas the internal potency is superior. The superior energy is the living force, and therefore she is completely identical. The external energy, being inert, is partially identical, but both the energies are neither equal to nor greater than the Lord, who is the generator of all energies. Such energies are always under his control, exactly as electrical energy, however powerful it may be, is always under the control of the engineer. The human being and all other living beings are products of his internal energies. Thus, the living being is also identical with the Lord, but he is never equal or superior to the personality of Godhead. The Lord and the living beings are all individual persons. With the help of the material energy, the living being are also creating something, but none of their creations are equal or superior to the creations of the Lord. The human being may create a small playful Sputnik and may throw it into outer space, but that does not mean that he can create a planet like Earth and moon and float it in the air as the Lord does. Men with a poor fund of knowledge claim to be equal to the Lord. They are never equal to the Lord. This is never to be. Human beings, after attaining complete perfection, may achieve a large percentage of the qualities of the Lord, say up to 78%, but it is never possible to surpass the Lord or to become equal with him. It is a disease condition only. Foolish being claims to be one with the Lord and thus becomes misled by the illusory energy. Misguided living beings therefore must accept the supremacy of the Lord and agree to render devotional service to him. For this they have been created. Without this, there cannot be any peace or tranquility in this world. Srila Vyasadeva is advised by Srila Narada to expand this idea in the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavad Gita also, the same idea is explained. Surrender fully unto the lotus feet of the Lord. That is the only business of the perfect human being. Very clear, crystal clear. We can never become the Supreme Lord. But Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes in relation to Lord Nityananda that, and we also heard about Narad Muni being cent percent non-different from the Lord. So it's explained that the pure devotees, in terms of their energy, they don't become greater than God or equal to God. But in terms of their mentality, they do. Srila Prabhupada said, the impersonal is they trying to become God. The devotee, he can become greater than God. Why? Because the Lord allows him to be controlled by the devotion of the Lord. So he becomes greater than the Lord. During the Leela of Jagai and Madai, where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to kill Jagai and Madai, Lord Nityananda begged Lord Chaitanya, please, my Lord, you didn't come to kill, you came to deliver. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes that Lord Nityananda is more one than one in this situation. When he's talking about one, he's talking about Lord Chaitanya, God. So Lord Nityananda is more God than God, more one than one. What does it mean? That Lord Chaitanya came to deliver the souls, but at that time he wanted to kill. He wanted to use a weapon. And Lord Nityananda, understanding the mood of Lord Chaitanya, reminded the Lord that, no, my Lord, you didn't come to destroy the demonic people. You came to destroy the demonic tendencies with pure love. So please shower your love on them. So therefore, here Lord Nityananda is actually greater in terms of his consciousness and mentality in reminding Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So more one than one. So the pure devotees of the Lord, they can, with their mentality and consciousness, have their desires completely aligned with the Supreme Lord. In that way, they act like the Supreme Lord, or in certain cases, the Lord can allow them to act even greater than him. So in that cases, yes, one can become greater than God. But otherwise, in every other sense, the energetic Supreme Lord always controls all his energies, and we are always subordinate. And as subordinate beings, our business is simply to surrender to the lotus feet of the Lord and to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 21. Vam atmanatmanam aveya mogadrik parasyam pumsa paramatmana kalam ajam prajatam jagata shivayatam tan mahanubhava buddhayo diganyatam. Your goodness has perfect vision. You yourself know the super soul personality of Godhead because you are present as a plenary portion of the Lord. Although you are birthless, you have appeared on this earth for the well-being of all people. Please therefore describe the transcendental pastime of the personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, more vividly. So Narad Muni is instructing very, very, very clearly what Srila Vyasadeva needs to do, describe the Supreme Lord more vividly. Prabhupada in the purport says, Srila Vyasadeva is the empowered plenary portion incarnation of the personality of God at Shri Krishna. He descended by his causeless mercy to deliver the fallen souls in the material world. The fallen and forgetful souls are detached from the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The living entities are part and parcels of the Lord, and they are eternally servitors of the Lord. All the Vedic literatures, therefore, are put into systematic order for the benefit of the fallen souls, and it is the duty of the fallen souls to take advantage of such literatures and be freed from the bondage of material existence. Although formerly Srila Narada Rishi, he is his spiritual master, Srila Vyasadeva is not at all dependent on a spiritual master because, in essence, he is the spiritual master of everyone else. But because he is doing the work of an acharya, he has taught us by his own conduct that one must have a spiritual master, even though he be God himself. Lord Shri Krishna, Lord Ram, and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all incarnations of God, had accepted formal spiritual masters, although by their transcendental nature, they were commissioned of all knowledge. In order to direct people in general to the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna, he himself, in his incarnation of Vyasadeva, is delineating the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. So Srila Vyasadeva received these beautiful instructions. He's perfectly qualified, totally transcendental, empowered, and has the full ability to glorify the Supreme Lord. He knows the truth, and the Lord actually used Srila Vyasadeva to in this situation simply to glorify Srimad Bhagavatam. The Lord used Narad Muni in this way, so that the glories of Bhagavatam can come forth, and we can appreciate the glories of the Lord. We can appreciate Bhagavatam even more through these pastimes of the Lord. And the last verse for today, idam hi pumsam tapasa shrutasya va swistasya suktasya cha buddhi datayo avinchutto ratta kavidir nirupito yad uttama sloka gunanuvarnanam. Learned circles have positively concluded that the infallible purpose of the advancement of knowledge, namely austerity, study of the Vedas, sacrifice, chanting of the hymns, and charity, culminates in the transcendental descriptions of the Lord, who is defined in choice poetry. Purport. Human intellect is developed for advancement of learning in art, science, philosophy, physics, chemistry, psychology, economics, politics, etc. By culture of such knowledge, the human society can attain perfection of life. This perfection of life culminates in the realization of the Supreme Being Vishnu. The Shruti therefore directs that those who are actually advanced in learning should aspire for the service of Lord Vishnu. Unfortunately, persons who are enamored by the external beauty of Vishnu Maya do not understand that culmination of perfection or self-realization depends on Vishnu. Vishnu Maya means sense enjoyment, which is transient and miserable. Those who are entrapped by Vishnu Maya utilize advancement of knowledge for sense enjoyment. Sri Narad Muni has explained that all paraphernalia of cosmic universe is but an emanation from the Lord out of his different energies, because the Lord has set in motion by his inconceivable energies, the actions and reactions of created manifestation. They have come to be out of his energies. They rest on his energies, and after annihilation, they merge into him. Nothing is therefore different from him. But at the same time, the Lord is always different from them. So there are different levels of advancement that the human intellect can take people, as Prabhupada is describing: art, science, philosophy, physics, chemistry, psychology, economics, politics. But then that culminates as perfection of life. Then higher than that is understanding and realizing as the Supreme Being, Vishnu. And higher than that is to then realize one's eternal identity and service to the Supreme Lord. When advancement of knowledge is applied in the service of the Lord, the whole process becomes absolute. So this is how we want to live our life. It's not that when we make Krishna the interest of our life, that we become indifferent to everything in this material world. No, we can strive according to our material swadharma, according to our material duties, but it should always be with the view of applying that in the service of the Lord. And if we do that, then the process becomes absolute. The personality of Godhead and his transcendental name, fame, glories, etc. are all non-different from him. Therefore, all the sages and devotees of the Lord have recommended that the subject matter of art, science, philosophy, physics, chemistry, psychology, and all the other branches of knowledge should be wholly and solely applied in the service of the Lord. Art, literature, poetry, painting, etc. may be used in glorifying the Lord. The fiction writers, poets, and celebrated literaturists are generally engaged in writing of sensuous subjects, but if they turn towards the service of the Lord, they can describe transcendental pastimes of the Lord. Valmiki was a great poet, and similarly Vyasadeva is a great writer, and both of them have absolutely engaged themselves in delineating transcendental activities of the Lord, and by doing so, they have become immortal. Similarly, science and philosophy also should be applied in the service of the Lord. There is no use of presenting dry speculative theory for sense gratification. Philosophy and science should be engaged to establish the glory of the Lord. Advanced people are eager to understand absolute truth through the medium of science, and therefore great scientists should endeavor to prove the existence of the Lord on a scientific basis. Similarly, philosophical speculation should be utilized to establish the supreme truth as sentient and all-powerful. Similarly, all other branches of knowledge should always be engaged in the service of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, also the same is affirmed. All knowledge not engaged in the service of the Lord is but missions. Real utilization of advanced knowledge is to establish the glories of the Lord, and that is the real import. Scientific knowledge engaged in the service of the Lord and all similar activities are all factual Harikirtan, or glorification of the Lord. So everything should be used for the Supreme Personality of God. And that is the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, that we can engage, we can dovetail all our occupations, all our fields of and branches of knowledge for the glorification of the Lord. When we employ everything for the glorification of the Lord, then that becomes glorious, that becomes absolute. And in that way, we don't need to separate, we don't need to detach ourselves. Because why? It's connecting us, just like if I'm an artist, I like to paint. So no problem. We should paint the pastimes of the Lord. And by painting, because I love to paint and I'm painting, I'm able to enjoy the activity as well as focus my mind in remembering the Supreme Lord through painting the glories of the Supreme Lord. In this way, it becomes glorification, it becomes Hari Kirtan. Prabhupada said, Kirtan means any activity in glorification of the Lord. So for example, taking prasad is Kirtan. Writing books, distributing books, preaching is Kirtan. Any activity related to glorification of the Lord is Kirtan. Glorification of the Lord. So we should constantly hear the glories of the Lord, and we should try to dedicate our life in such a way that all our activities are somehow or other linked to the glorification of the Lord. And if we can link all our activities that we have in this material world in some way or other, link that to the glorification of the Lord, then our lives will become blissful and sublime. And in conclusion, Mother Jadurani once she narrates that once a devotee asked, how is it, asking Srila Prabhupada, how is it that you make this complicated philosophy so simple and clear? And Prabhupada replied, because it is simple. God is great and you are not great. Therefore you are not God and you should surrender to God. And Srila Vyasadeva is being beautifully instructed by Narada Muni, very compassionately, to glorify the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, process of bhakti, pastimes of the Supreme Lord, vividly, very clearly, without being vague, very, very graphically. We find that the Srimad Bhagavatam covers so many pastimes, and every single pastime in the Srimad Bhagavatam is focused on the glorification of Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. Krishna stu Bhagavan Swayam. And thus we come to the end of these sets of verses. Grantarat Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions or comments? Meena says, Hare Krishna Bhai, we all have our own quota, and no matter how much we try, we will get what's due to you. Does this apply to one's devotional kripa? No, it does not apply to one's devotional kripa. One's devotional kripa is dependent on one's own endeavor and mercy of the Vaishnavas. And you can get causeless mercy that you don't deserve. And by that causeless mercy of the devotees, your kripa can grow. By the mercy of the Lord, your kripa can grow. And even by your own effort in this world, you can grow. So your devotional results are not dependent so much on your past. Your past will lead you, which means if you finished 51%, you will start with 52 in this life. So you continue, and all your efforts in this life from 52 to 100, you can achieve in one life. It's not dependent on destiny, and it's not dependent on your past, because it's totally transcendental. Bhakti is independent. It's not dependent on karma or fruit of activities. Right, Ram Kinkar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, pranams to you, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. I just want to make 3 points, but the first one I want to say is I had the good fortune of meeting Bafana Prabhu at Santon on Krishna Astami Day, and I was so happy to meet him. So I just wanted everyone to know that I met Prabhu. He came into Krishna consciousness in 1996 at university preaching, and he really very excited about it. Point one. Point two, Prabhu, it seems like this lecture has been really so pertinent to me in terms of somebody falling down from grace, and I am struggling to forgive that person because it seems like the person is not showing any remorse and is continuing in the same stride as, just doing whatever is not a good thing. So I don't know how do I deal with that. I'm not expecting an answer, but maybe I'm going to have a rethink. And then on a lighter note, I wish I could have taken a heart and kept it as a spare part, because you said, if you find a finger, keep it as a spare part. But going on that point, I don't know what the answer to this is, and with your knowledge, maybe you can come up with some explanation. When there is a heart transplant, I know you've been asked this question before, when there is a heart transplant and we know that the soul is sitting in the heart, then whose soul is there in that person then when the heart has been transplanted? Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much. It's Ratnalekha Gopi Devi Dasi. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mother Ratna Devi Dasi. So, yes, I also am eagerly waiting to meet Bafana Prabhu to get his wonderful association. Your second question in relation to forgiving. So we should always, and it's not easy. It'll come. It'll come over time as you mature in your own Krishna consciousness. But forgiveness is an attractive quality to Krishna. Krishna loves those devotees that forgive. It may not be easy, but we have to try to see in the light of Srila Prabhupada himself. Consider of all the challenges that Srila Prabhupada had, which was the greatest fight that Srila Prabhupada went through. Anyone can tell us? You can unmute yourself as well. Which was the greatest fight, the greatest challenge, that Prabhupada went through, one after another, one challenge after another. Yes, Jew Beach, Hare Krishna land. This was Prabhupada's greatest fight with Mr. Nair. Mr. Sethi was helping Srila Prabhupada. Mr. Nair was like the Ravana. And Mr. Nair put so many obstacles, inconceivable obstacles, one after another, in cheating Prabhupada, in sending gundas, politically, so many ways. Mr. Nair tried to stop Prabhupada from getting that land. Now, when Mr. Nair died, Mr. Nair's wife, Mrs. Nair, she came to Srila Prabhupada. Now, you must know the devotees, naturally, they were not interested in these personalities because they caused so much havoc and headache to Srila Prabhupada. But she was outside and Mr. Sethi was going to see Srila Prabhupada. So Mr. Sethi saw Ms. Nair outside and she stopped Mr. Sethi. And with tears, she begged Mr. Sethi that please tell Srila Prabhupada I'm here to speak to him. So, and I'm here to beg forgiveness. So Mr. Sethi, he came in, he met Srila Prabhupada and told Srila Prabhupada, Ms. Nair is outside, she wants to see you. She wants to beg forgiveness. And Prabhupada said, sure, let her come. And Mr. Sethi said, Prabhupada, would you forgive her? And Srila Prabhupada said, during the day, if one loses or at night, if one loses one's direction in the darkness, and in the morning, one then recognizes that one made the mistake and now wants to come back, then we cannot fault that person. So therefore, if somebody makes a mistake and they then genuinely recognize they made a mistake and they apologize, we should accept. So Prabhupada was happy to forgive Mr. Nair. So like that, we should always try to forgive. Now, what I would suggest you do is hear the recording of the lecture I gave yesterday, on Thursday. It was on Thursday for ISKCON Mauritius. You'll see on Facebook, it's called Srila Prabhupada in Mauritius. Yeah, Srila Prabhupada's pastimes in Mauritius. And we started a series of the founder Acharya of Srila Prabhupada. And in there, I explain in the last part of how Srila Prabhupada's institution is compared to a business. And I also explain about the Diksha and Shiksha gurus. So go through that clip. And then if you have further clarifications, you can then come to me. If you need more further clarifications. Then the other point is, if Krishna can forgive, who are we not to forgive? If Krishna could forgive Putana for her intention, for her, not even intention, she actually was carrying out the assassination of Krishna. So if he could forgive, then we can pray to Krishna, my Lord, you please give me the courage to also forgive. And because we are under Srila Prabhupada's protection, sometimes, the breaking of our faith may be very painful, but that is why if we always stick to Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet, one of the umbrellas may be shaken, may be broken, but the all-encompassing umbrella of Srila Prabhupada will always give us protection. And then in conclusion to your last point about the soul, so the soul is not in the heart. The soul is in the region of the heart. So if I take out the heart, I don't take the soul out, because it's not in the heart. It's not bound by the heart, and it's not in the heart. It's in the region of the heart. Region means that area of the heart. So if I take out the heart, the area of the heart is still same place, and the soul is still in the same area of the heart. It hasn't moved an inch. So when I have a heart transplant, I'm transplanting the heart, not the soul. The soul is still there in that body, and soul is still in this body. If that body is revived, resuscitated, that soul will still be in that same body. Okay, so it's in the region and not in the heart. Okay, that's from Srila Prabhupada's books. Okay, let's go to Suresh Magam Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for this wonderful enlightenment. Kindly email or WhatsApp the previous slides where the peak of offering Krishna transcendental flute for Usha Mari's painting. Thank you very much. Chairman Last Academy for those glorious Srimad Bhagavatam class. Time well utilized in service of the Lord. Hare Krishna. Will do. Bafana Press, thank you for the great lesson. Mother Uttanavandi David says, thank you Prabhu for amazing class. Nalini Kandi says, beautiful class. Thank you for the nectar. Atmadarshan Hare Krishna, thank you for a wonderful class and giving us so much hope with this class, and with giving so many amazing examples of devotees who fell away and then came back to Krishna consciousness. It shows me a glance of how compassionate Srila Prabhupada is, wanted to understand. So in the case of fall downs and coming back, do devotees have a chance of perfecting this life and going back home, back to Godhead, or is it just helping them for next birth and they have to come back for sure, but they start spiritual life in the next life? So if one falls away, we don't know their level of advancement, just like Jad Bharat is already at the stage of power. So all his spiritual credits are never lost. When he slips, it's just a temporary fall down, temporary leave of absence. That's all. He is not losing his spiritual practice. So whether in this life he comes back or whether in next life he comes back, as soon as he's put back onto the path of devotional service, he realizes his mistake, or he's put back by the mercy of the Guru or the Vaishnavas, immediately he gets access to his full credits and he can perfect his life. So Krishna deals individually with each devotee according to their credits, according to their advancement, and how best to help them purify. It is all a personal relationship with Krishna. From our side, we should always be compassionate, be encouraging. That's all. We should encourage every single one, whether fallen or not fallen, to take the next step in their relationship with Krishna. So yes, they can perfect their life in this life. They can perfect their lives in the future lives. One disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, he was initiated by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. He fell away. Well, he wasn't practicing seriously, and then he left his body, and he went to Yamaraj, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj met him, visited him in Yamaloka, and chastised him. Why he didn't complete? Why didn't he practice nicely? So he got his chastisement in Yamaloka, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj told him, "You go back and you go to my other disciple and get initiated again, and make sure this time you follow strictly." So he came back, and in fact he was on his deathbed. He left his body, went to Yamaloka, right, and they were about to cremate his body, and he came back into his body in time. and he got reinitiated. And when he went to see his other Srila Bhaktisinoda's disciple to get initiated, then he explained what had happened, and that disciple who he wanted to take shelter of said, yes, I know exactly what had happened. And he reinitiated him. Madalash, Hare Krishna, bro, thank you for the Krishna Katha. This class has personally resonated with me, especially the fall down. But Krishna never leaves. Please clarify whether there are many types of karma, those that you get in the next life, activities and actions not linked to Krishna, as well as instant karma, or as an example, if you stick your hand in fire, it instantly burns. Yes, so correct. So there is, when we talk about the technical term of karma, is that reaction that gives you a body. That's the technical term of the name of karma, or the name karma. So in your past life, the karma that gives you this body, that's karmic reaction. And in this life, the law of action and reaction also applies. But the law of action and reaction also applies in terms of, as you mentioned, you put your hand in fire, you'll get burnt. Now, you putting your hand in fire is also not separate from your karmic account. The influences and the samskaras that one gets is also influenced by your past karmic account. Therefore, one of the things that are inconceivable is the law of karma, how this law of karma works, because it's very intricate. So let me give you another example. You are meant to get married in this life, and who you're going to get married to is also destined. But you may decide, and because we have free will, we are free to decide and act. We may decide, well, I'm not going to do a marriage ceremony. And I'll just say, I do, and that's it. So because you're not following the Vedic system and you're not performing the samskaras, the purifying samskaras, the purifying rites that Krishna has created for that, then you are not following, you're not getting married according to dharmic principles. You're still destined to get married to the same person. But this time, because of your independent desire not to get married according to dharmic principles, you still married to the same person, but the suffering is going to increase. In some cases, as Prabhupada writes, that even if you get something which inverted commas is not meant to be in your bank account, then the law of karma balances that automatically from a karmic perspective. So your bank account is always balanced, that whatever you're going to get, whatever you deserve, you get. Right? So yes, it's a very complicated system that's inconceivable to appreciate all the nuances of how this law works. From our perspective, we don't need to go too much into the details. We should know that, as Prabhupada is making very clear, that you're not going to get more than what you deserve. So therefore, don't over-endeavor. Focus on your Krishna consciousness and note that when you surrender to Krishna, then your karma also is totally different. It's no more mundane karmic reaction, it's Krishna karma. So the law still applies in terms of action and reaction. But certain laws or certain actions will not fructify if they're not sanctioned according to one's past. That's why the super soul will sanction. Just like COVID. COVID is completely sanctioned by the Supreme Lord. He may not ordain it, but it's sanctioned. And because Krishna sanctioned it, we have to accept it. And if we accept it and live with it and continue our Krishna consciousness, then it doesn't become a problem anymore. Right? So we do what's required, we do the needful and continue our Krishna consciousness. So I hope that shed a little light on your question. Meena says, Hare Krishna, if one takes to spiritual path, just in regards to fall down. So if one slips, as I said, one of the things that we need to have is honest introspection. If I'm honest, then the opportunity is always there for me to rectify, for me to get back and reinstate myself. As long as I'm not honest to myself, as long as I'm not accepting that I'm slipping or I'm falling, then there'll always be a difficulty, always be a challenge. Right? So the doors are never closed to Krishna's lotus feet. I mean, even consider Ravana. At every opportunity, if you look, Lord Ram himself sent a message to Ravana that, yes, you've stolen Sita. Even if you come back and surrender to me, I will forgive you. Then when Ravana went to the Ashok garden to entice Sita, Mother Sita also told Ravana that, please accept Lord Ram and surrender to Lord Ram. You'll be saved. She didn't completely condemn him. She encouraged him to surrender to Lord. So even she gave him an opportunity. Hanuman did the same thing when Hanuman met when Hanuman met Ravana. The first thing he said, Ravana, use your intelligence and return Sita back. If you return Sita back, you will be saved. He didn't say, oh, you're a dog, you're a demon, you stole Sita, you hijacked her, you're going to hell. No, he encouraged him first. That take Sita back and everything will be forgiven. So the Lord and his devotees always will leave the doors open for any sincere soul who has made a mistake to rectify their mistakes. No one is eternally condemned. Meena says, if one takes to spiritual path easier than another person, is it due to spiritual credit from the path? Is one, if one struggles on the path? Yes. Generally, for those who have practiced the path and if they take very quickly to spiritual path, path on, when they come in contact, that means they were practicing in their past. Hare Krishna Prabhu. I most definitely wish and hope to meet you. Mataji is so sweet to announce to everyone our association. I beg to request her to open herself and let go. Open your hands. Let that which you hold on to go. Yes. We all have to let go, because remember, if you keep holding grudges, resentment, then it's baggage. And that baggage stops you from opening your heart completely to Krishna, which means, because for us to love Krishna completely, our heart needs to be filled only with Krishna and no one else. Yes, Srila Prabhupada, the pure devotees of the Lord, but it should be filled with pure love of Krishna only. As long as we hold on to resentment or to hatred or any other bad qualities or things that people did to us, somebody did something nasty to me, so that nasty event stays in my heart, and that person who did the nasty thing stays in my heart, which means I think of them. And if you think of them, like Jad Bharat, he became attached, and that attachment stayed in his heart. And that's what he thought of. So we want to be careful of that. Therefore, it's safer to accept that due to some past karmic reaction, I also got this reaction. Therefore, I deserve more Krishna, minimize it. Thank you, my Lord. I forgive, and I want to take more and more shelter of Srila Prabhupada, because Srila Prabhupada will never disappoint me. And another time, Srila Prabhupada even told his disciples, don't, be careful, even I can disappoint you. Only trust Krishna. We know Srila Prabhupada would never disappoint us, but Prabhupada is warning us. Only trust Krishna, because Krishna will never, ever break your trust, break your faith. So yes, follow Bhavana Prabhu's advice. Open your heart. It may be painful, but pray to Krishna. And there's ways to do it. If one struggles in spiritual life, Meena says, due to some karma from the past life or some obstacle from past life. So yes, there may be some challenges that come from past life, but remember, struggle in spiritual life is not an anartha. Struggle in spiritual life is not a big obstacle. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to pray more. It's an opportunity to cry more. If you're struggling in spiritual life, then cry. Cry to Krishna. You're like a baby. When a baby is struggling, a baby is not getting what he wants, the baby starts to cry. So cry like that. If you're really struggling and if you're really crying, if you're not crying, means you're not struggling enough. So if you're crying like, your hair is, you want to pull your hair out, you're crying to Krishna, and cry like that to Krishna, that will be perfection. Adachana says, thank you very much. Hare Krishna, thank you. Asastalia. Our Guru Maharaj used to always say, if we just always follow Srila Prabhupada, we will never fall down. He would say, even I can make mistakes, but if we hold on to Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet, we will be saved. He also would give initiation and say, on behalf of Srila Prabhupada, I give you the name so, and so on. And he would make his disciples vow never to leave Srila Prabhupada. Yes. So we should always remember that we always have shelter. And that's why I listen to that video recording, so you'll see how these things can be put into context. Yeah. And when we all perfect, because right now we may be interacting through the modes, when we all perfect in the spiritual world, we will see with different vision. Thank you very much. That is all the questions that are there. Thank you very much for all the devotees for asking these wonderful questions and for your wonderful association. Next week, Canto 1, Chapter 5, verses 23 to 31. We will continue with those verses. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaupanande Hari Hari.